That does not give you the right to take that person's identification. Clearly, it's not you.
That does not give you the right to take that person's identification. Clearly, it's not you. These powerful words would define one of the most candid identity fraud encounters ever recorded on Bodycam. On the 31st of May 2024, Officer Clark of the Kent Police Department in Washington State responded to a reported bank fraud at a Chase Bank branch in the city of Kent, King County, one of 3 branches targeted that day. Bank employees reported that the same woman had already visited the Seattle branch, then the Renton branch, and now the Kent branch, each time using a different fraudulent identity to open a new account. Under Terry v. Ohio, 392 U.S. 11968. Officers may briefly detain a suspect without an arrest when they can point to reasonable, articulable suspicion that criminal activity is occurring. That bar was clearly met.
Yeah, so she went to our Seattle branch, opened an account with a different ID. She went to our Miranda branch with a different ID. This is a third ID with a different name here at this branch.
I'm Officer Clark with the Kent Police Department. I have my body camera going, okay? Do you know why we're here?
Here's the fake utility bill that she keeps circulating with different things on it.
Have you guys actually identified her as, like, with a true name?
We don't know. So this is the third ID with different name. We can give you what the other IDs are. Pictures of them.
Yep.
Can you print them?
Good, mine.
What's your name, ma'am? Okay. So at this point, you are detained. You're not free to leave. Do you understand that? Okay. Ma'am, do you have identification? So, we can identify you. I'm just kind of trying to gauge your compliance with me, okay? I'm trying to not be super evasive on it. If you have identification, I'd love to see it.
I don't.
Okay. Are you going to give me your name?
So we're trying to make this as easy as possible by just asking for your name, okay? Rather than having to bring someone here to take your fingerprint or potentially even book you in jail just to get your name. So if you give us your name, there could very well be a possibility that I send these up to review and they contact you at a later time. And if you don't, then we have to go take you to jail to make sure we have you identified.
I just don't want you to catch any extra charges of basically delaying the process of an investigation by just not being cooperative. Okay? Because we do have to know who you are. That's like I said. So we are conducting an investigation this time, okay? So can I just get your name?
I just got really hot.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, right? You're kind of in a situation right now, okay? So, not a big deal. But I need to know who I'm talking to, okay? So if you need to take a breath, take a breath. But you just need to talk with me, okay? Or at least just tell me who you are. If not, we'll find it out. Ashley? And where are you staying at right now, Ashley? Homeless? You got a car outside or something? Is that what you're living in?
No, I take the bus around.
Take the bus? Okay.
Ashley, do you have an ID on you?
It was stolen.
Stolen.
I didn't be somebody else. I didn't want to be me anymore.
Ashley, do you have any kind of warrants or anything like that we're about to hear or something, or what? Is that why you're just not wanting to give me your name?
There's a possibility of one
Possibility for what?
from New Mexico.
New Mexico. Okay. Is it something I'm gonna have to load you up and fly you down there, or no?
I don't think so.
Okay. So, because you're detained, right? Because I'm not allowing you to leave right now, I'll just read you your rights, okay? Do you understand your rights?
Thanks.
So what was your intentions for today? Do you wanna?
So what's your real name? Ashley. Okay. So exactly what I was going to ask. What are you intending to do here today?
Open an account.
Okay. With this ID, is there a reason why you're using an ID without your?
Because I don't want to be me anymore. I'm tired of being who I am. I just want a new life.
Okay. And you thought a New York ID would help you do that?
Well, it would make me not me anymore.
So, with this ID, you were planning to open an account or do what?
Yeah, I was going to open an account and I was going to start
Officer Clark formally advises the subject she is detained and not free to leave. A detention is not an arrest, it is a temporary Fourth Amendment seizure justified by reasonable suspicion, not probable cause. The subject, who identifies herself only as Ashley, reveals she is homeless, traveling by bus across Washington state, and that her real identification was stolen. She then states, "I didn't want to be me anymore." Officer Clark reads the subject her Miranda rights, as established in Miranda v. Arizona, 384 U.S. 4361966. Though technically triggered by custody, reading rights proactively protects all subsequent voluntary statements from suppression. Ashley admits she received fraudulent IDs and social security cards through an anonymous phone contact, and that she personally scanned and altered utility bills, changing names, addresses, and account numbers herself.
I was going to start getting a job and be this person.
Okay. Have you ever lived in New York? So where did the idea of New York come from? Like you just like New York?
I always wanted to go there.
Gotcha. Where'd you get the social security card?
A friend gave it to me.
A friend. Where does this friend frequent live, or what's his name?
He's just a voice over the phone.
Okay. And how about this ID?
It's the same person. It's a voice over the phone.
Okay.
You call a number, you get a new life.
Okay. Did that same person give you this ID?
I got it in the mail.
Okay. But the same, you got it the same way? Have you had a social security card for these other IDs? You did? Okay. Where are those IDs and social security cards at?
I don't know.
Do you see anything necessarily wrong with what you're doing?
Well, these people, I'm told that they're not able to be them anymore. Like they're not even real anymore. Like they're like in the hospital and they can't be them. So how am I hurting anybody?
Okay. Were you successful in opening an account with those other locations?
And the other one wasn't able to be open yet. She said she'd call me back later.
Okay. So were you intending to get a job with the other names as well? Or
I was gonna see if which one would pass because you never know what comes up when they actually do a background check.
okay. And where do you currently live right now? Your home. Okay. Where do you frequent?
It was the Aurora area, but I didn't want to live up anymore. It was too far away, so I went down to the SeaTac area.
Do you have the phone number that you called to get these IDs?
It changes.
Okay. Is it like a website or just a person that you call or email or what?
So you call the number and you get another number to call because that number always changes. It's like pings and stuff. It's weird.
Okay. When was the last time you lived in New Mexico?
A few months back,
So your ID should still potentially be valid?
but it was stolen.
Okay. What's the warrant for?
Shoplifting.
Gotcha. So you know you can still get a job being yourself, right?
A felon.
You can still get a job.
Not in New Mexico. They don't give you any chances.
You're in Washington State now. You can still get a job.
I applied at a bunch of different places and nobody ever called me back.
Okay. So once we have you identified, we'll go from there. I just want to make sure that you are who you say you are in New Mexico. And you've never had an ID out of the state. So I'm
It's
gonna
so
be...
bad that I want to change who I am.
So, it's a fake ID, and it's a fake social security card. Okay, so I was just now getting into that, so I'm glad you touched on that. So what we're looking at here is identity theft. So you're trying to be somebody else that you're not, trying to open a bank account with a name that doesn't belong to you, with a social security card that doesn't belong to you. Where is this City of Seattle light bill from? Where'd you get this?
I found it in one of the hotel rooms that I was at, and you can change the information on it.
So is it one of the hotels?
One that you can, like, you scan it into the computer and you just change the information on it.
What information did you change?
The address.
This address? Okay, what else did you change?
No.
You changed the address there too? Or you changed the name? Or both?
Well, they all tell the same thing.
Yeah. So you changed the addresses for all of them?
Well, yeah, they had a match.
Okay, I'm just checking. Did you change anything else on there?
I don't think so.
Okay. So you didn't change the account number, the name, the amount, the dates?
Well, that's the same, but yeah, I changed the account number to put like random numbers in there.
Okay, so did you get the ID to match the name?
Under RCW 9A 60.04, first-degree identity theft occurs when someone knowingly uses another person's means of identification with criminal intent. 3 incidents at 3 branches equal 3 separate felony counts under Washington law. Scanning and altering the utility bill to change the name and address constitutes forgery under RCW 9A 60.03, a separate Class C felony in Washington state, compounding the subject's already serious legal exposure significantly. Ashley claims she didn't know the ID belonged to a real person. Officer Clark counters precisely. Resemblance does not authorize use of that identity. Washington law requires criminal intent, not knowledge of the victim to prosecute. A records check reveals an outstanding warrant from New Mexico for conspiracy to commit shoplifting under interstate extradition discretion. Kent officers are not obligated to hold on lower-level out-of-state warrants, and they elect not to. Illinois v. Wardlow, 528 U.S. 1192000, holds that a documented pattern of suspicious behavior strengthens reasonable suspicion. Visiting 3 branches in one day using 3 distinct fraudulent identities is exactly that kind of pattern. Officer Clark opts not to arrest due to Ashley's visible leg injury, lawful discretion under the 4th Amendment's reasonableness standard, balancing medical need against flight risk and the nonviolent, non-confrontational nature of the offense.
Already changed the name there to match the ID.
I made this match the ID.
Gotcha. Or how'd you come up with that name?
That's just the name that I was given.
By who?
The person on the phone.
Okay. I will be right back and go see about the ID. Okay.
So I got them trying to pull some kind of a DOL out of New Mexico. So it's unfortunately they have her listed like for a felony. It was a warrant out of New Mexico. It was like conspiracy to commit shoplift. So it wasn't felony. It was like something dumb. But they have her listed in there. We don't have anything on our end. The only thing I didn't run was like county booking to see if she's been booked there. But we got nothing on her on our end. I mean, I would probably ask her like why she's giving like an AKA, like what is her actual freaking name, and like I mean, but then again, people who like commit frauds like this, like I don't even know if they know who they are anymore at this point, you know. But like, I would say we'd probably take her down and get her like book her and fingerprint her and do all this stuff and get photographs. And then do the felony quite a large. Do what you got? She's going felony level on that one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would transport her down, get her fully identified and stuff like that. And then, I mean, she's homeless, so who knows where she's gonna go, but try to get a good address. I'll see if I can dig into it a little bit, if she can give me some more about the name and stuff. Hey, Ashley. So it's me, Officer Clark again. So we're having issues with your name. So we've got you in the system for like multiple names. Is there a reason for that? Do you go by other names?
I have my married name,
What's your married name?
but I don't go by it anymore.
Okay. Well, whether you go by it anymore or legally go by it are a couple different things, okay? So, the last name that you had identification, what name would it be? And where would that have been out of?
New Mexico.
Okay. Okay.
Can you look up there, please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it? And who said that?
Records.
Excellent. Okay. So yeah, you do have a warrant out of New Mexico. Okay. It's not something we're going to take you on, right? So we're City of Kent at this time, so we're going to go with what my officer over here has for you, okay? So he's got a little more details for you.
So, like I told you earlier, my goal here was to get you identified, not all these other names that you've been using, right? And if we can get you identified, then I will send this up, and then eventually you will get something at your PO box saying you have a date for what happened here today. Because ultimately there's one incident here, but the rest of them are not in the city of Kent. Okay? So I also, the way your leg is looking, also will not be taking you to jail today, but do you have a phone number I can reach you at? Do you guys have any thoughts and concerns? Okay.
Thank you for not arresting me.
Well, just...
I'm not going to do this anymore.
Okay, well, just because you're not necessarily getting arrested today doesn't mean you won't in the future for this. Okay? At this point, just because you want to be somebody else doesn't mean you should get another ID and social security card. It's like I told you, it's identity theft.
How do you suggest to get a different life?
Do you have any other identifications on you that you want to give us that we can take?
I don't have one, no.
Okay.
Not the ones that you used at Miranda or Seattle?
I got rid of the one that I couldn't open the account because they couldn't verify it. I got rid of those, that set.
Okay. Just... I mean, you have a record in New Mexico. I don't really recommend you get one here in Washington. I'm in Renton criminal history in Washington, but if you're trying to start a new life, it's probably not the best way to do it.
So you know it is a crime to actually be in possession of another person's ID, correct? You know that, right?
But I didn't think it was an actual, like an actual person, because, like, how could you get an actual person's, like, real information? Like, right?
Come again?
How could you get the real person's, I thought it was, like, it's fake, right? It's not.
A driver's license?
Yeah, it has my picture on it, but...
I have a driver's license in my pocket right now, and it's mine, right? So it's me, with my information.
But it's got my picture on it, but I wasn't sure if the information was actually right. That's
So
why
the
the one time it wasn't
so the
verified.
chances of you looking like someone else in a one-dimensional photograph, the chances of that are fairly high, right? Have you ever heard of the word doppelganger, where you have someone who kind of looks like you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a chance that you look like someone. That does not give you the right to take that person's identification. Clearly it's not you. It does not have your name on it. And then come into a financial institution and try to open up bank accounts and take out loans and do all the things, right? That's called fraud, okay? That is fraudulent, 100% hands down. Because you are not that person, and you are telling them that you are that person when you're not. That's against the law, okay? And you know that. I know you know that.
I know.
We're not going to take her to jail today because she's having some medical issues and we also identified her. But will be investigated for a felony level identity theft.
Okay, yeah, for trespass and all that too, though, because like she's been going from branch to branch, and I'm not really sure if she smoked in my bathroom, did some.
Okay, do you want me to trespass her for a year or for life?
For life.
Okay, do you have any other branches in Kent?
No.
Okay, so I can only trespass her for the branch in Kent. I can't trespass her for other
Okay.
locations.
Can you check our bathroom with me?
Where is it?
I was trying to use the restroom, and I went over there to use the guest bathroom, but I felt like ever since I
Where is
walked
it?
right in, my nose is like in between.
I didn't smell anything in the bathroom. She may or may not have.
Maybe.
On that card, next to the stars, those places can help you kind of start over. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Give them a call. Reach out to them.
You guys actually care in this state.
Yeah, we try.
New Mexico
Obviously,
don't about us.
stop trying to do what you're doing now. Okay, get your warrant taken care of, but reach out to them. They can help. Okay.
Ashley was ultimately charged with 3 counts of first-degree identity theft under RCW 9A 60.04. Each count carries up to 10 years imprisonment and fines, reaching $20,000 under Washington State Criminal Code. Officer Clark earns a grade of A. He applied Terry correctly, delivered Miranda proactively, explained the law accurately to the subject, and showed genuine compassion, completing the encounter, without a single procedural or constitutional misstep. Ashley earns a grade of C-. She cooperated after initial hesitation and expressed remorse, but committed 3 separate felonies across multiple financial institutions, a pattern courts treat more seriously than any isolated impulsive mistake. Lesson 1. Miranda rights protect you only if you use them. Once Ashley chose to speak after the advisement, every voluntary statement became admissible evidence and directly supported all 3 counts of identity theft filed against her. Lesson 2. Identity theft is never victimless. Even when Ashley believed the identities were fabricated, real social security numbers were involved. Real people carry the resulting credit damage, fraud flags, and legal burden for years afterward. Lesson 3. Desperation does not constitute a legal defense. Washington courts do not weigh personal hardship against statutory elements of identity theft. Motive may influence sentencing, but it cannot erase criminal liability under state law.